Hi, welcome back. We are on day 23 of my 60 days of learning, specifically intentionally learning more game development through the Godot game engine. My goal through this is to find the different concepts and things that I just have not done through game design and implement them. Trying my best to find ways to dig deep into this engine to be able to just solve a problem, to do a thing. I've spent a number of days really just building on the skills that I've already learned and starting to try and veer past that to stuff that I have not done yet. So, yesterday, as part of day 32, I did take a step back and I was trying to look for different things that I have not done, and a recommendation came from ChatGPT of, hey, you should take a look at a debug overlay. So, here we are. I went through the game this past day, looked at some refactoring opportunities where I could get this information from, what I wanted to put on there, and I've dwindled it down to a few tabs. I haven't changed the look of what's actually shown on there. Right now, I just have one tab that is being populated. It's not populating with all the information I want. We will get to that. So next, I'm going to show you what the debug overlay looks like now, and then we can start getting into it a little bit deeper and get some feedback. I'd love to hear from you and what you think about this and the information collected. So next, as the game starts, one thing to remember, hold shift, hit the tilde, I think it is, right next to the one, that character. And the debug menu pops up. So the bits that can be and will be removed off of here, the different tabs, are going to be the current wave and the enemies. I plan on just putting them here as part of this level tab. Next, you're going to see as the wave begins, you're going to see some of the information actually pop up. Let me throw an enemy on here so we can start padding some of the numbers. As you can see, the total enemies and enemies spawned, they should match. I mean, as we would anticipate. The one thing that I'm a little concerned about right now, and I think this is just a bit of an opportunity, is the number of enemies on the board. Now, that's just a bug. I believe what happened is when I came back into this game, the number of enemies just did not reset. And that, I believe, is probably an issue just with the pool itself. So we're going to test that theory out real quick. So I have 18, 19, 20. Now let's go in here. Let's go back. It's 24. That's cool. That I can resolve. So when the game resets, the enemy pool does not reset. It still thinks, okay, awesome. We're going to get past that. The idea that I'm looking for now is that at least I have some information in here. And that uncovered a bug for us. So already I am getting value out of this debug overlay. Now, to explain that a little bit further, let's actually go into code. Now I'm going to pause that so we can just leave it up. It's not really going to hurt. We're not going to look into the actual game being played. Let's go into the enemy pool. And what I want you to look at is we have an enemies array, we have add enemies, and we have clear all enemies. I do not believe that clear all enemies is actually removing all of the enemies. Is this clear? Is this actually even being called? So, I don't know. Let's find out. Clear all enemies is not being called. So, that's actually a really interesting one. Let's go and let's add that in there real quick and actually see our debug menu help us solve an issue. So, when I am in the game state manager, when I say reset game, which sets the game to it says main menu, reset health. Let's find out, where is reset game being called? So reset game. Reset game is being called in the main level itself. I don't believe that that's even needed. But Actually, you know what? That's wrong. That is incorrect. I apologize. We call reset game at the beginning of each time a scene is loaded. So let's get into that real quick. So why would I be calling it in there? Do I even need it in there anymore? Oh, I had a reset button that I added on there at one point. Look at this. I'm also finding that there's code that I need to clear out, and that's cool. We're going through this journey together. So reset game is, where else is it being called? It says it's being on end game pressed. I say reset and we go back to the main menu. Okay, awesome. Now, this is okay. Now, when we hit the escape button, let's actually go back to the game real quick. There is end game. And reset game is taking us back to the main menu. I think that's completely acceptable. What we're not doing is clearing out everything. So we have reset health. I think that is completely appropriate. Let's go ahead and move that right here. And we can do an enemy pool dot clear all enemies. Now, do I think that we need to do clear all enemies in the way that we are? I believe that queue free is going to happen when this is called. So let's just go ahead and test it and see what happens. We'll test it as it is, and then I'm going to modify it so we're not clearing out all the enemies with the queue free. So if you're not familiar with queue free, what it does is it actually just destroys the object. So whenever we have an object destruction throughout this process, that is what we're calling. So let's go ahead and end game. And it says queue free, and it can't free the enemies. So there we go. Now it was trying to clear the enemies that didn't actually exist on the board right now. So we're going to come in here. We're going to allow some enemies to be created. And then let's go ahead and pause. We have 8. Let's go ahead and end game. And it says that the enemies don't exist right now. So when we clear all enemies, we don't need to queue free them because they're going to free themselves. Let's go do that again. There we go. Let's go ahead and crank this up to 8 times. And then let's go ahead and pause. So we have 10 and end, and we have 0 again. Okay. I am totally fine with this. If I was anticipating going from one map to the next, I would want to, and reuse the same main game, I would anticipate that I would clear the queue each time. There probably are other opportunities throughout here where we are clearing or are not clearing all the enemies in the queue when it's unnecessary. And I think that's a good refactoring opportunity. This debug here, I believe, is going to help to help show some of those things. So for right now, all I have on here is level, and it has the information. This grunt information, I plan on extending out and having a list of all the enemies that are currently on the board. Now, I told you I was going to show you what I'm actually doing for the debug overlay. So, if take a look at this debug overlay right now. This is quite big, and that is to generate a majority of what is on that one tab. Here's the base tab. This is the current wave tab. If you can see where I'm highlighting on the left, economy, towers. These are the additional tabs that are not populated yet, and they're just a few things. So this is all UI, and that's okay. What I have are a number of labels, and then the data that's corresponding to them as part of a horizontal box. Everything is one line, so I'm not real concerned about them losing one-to-one space on there. The next thing on here is the enemy data, which is, as I was mentioning, that stuff we're going to be populating at the bottom. That list of enemies. All of this is inside of a scroll container, so as we start getting those enemies populated in there, they'll be scrollable. That is going to be the first phase on that. I want to then move all of those enemies out into a separate tab of their own in the way that I have them here, and I want them to display independently of the individual statistics. That might not be a great idea, because you may want to see the numbers along with the enemies. So maybe I'll move all of the enemy information over there, because you care about the level information when you're thinking about level, but if you're thinking about enemies, maybe you just want... I'll play around with different things and see how it turns out. But for right now, as an enemy is added to the board or removed from the board, rather if it's destroyed from a tower or it damages the base, I have this level tab now. And what this level tab is providing us is a number of signals that we're listening to that are newly added. On top of this, the level tab does have a number of dependencies that are all within the debug section. It does not depend on anything now within the main level. And when I say now, I want to be very clear that there was some refactoring that was done as well. So things have been shifted around, so things live at more of a global level instead of inside of the main level. And so Level Map Manager now has not only the current level, but it also has the level map data. And the main scene does not store that information. It gets it from here. So we have a single source of truth, which is pretty cool. But I have some cleanup to do. But as we start adding, I completely missed that we can just do a quick conversion using string. As we start adding more information, we need the information to be provided through signals and not through the actual nodes themselves. And why is that? If I delete this debug overlay, I do not want that to impact anything with the game. I said that from the beginning, a couple days ago, a day ago when I started talking about this. So as we're looking at the debug menu, 100% of the information should be independent of, should not be a dependency of anything in the main level. Am I saying that right? We're going to be using signals to actually pull the information as often as possible. This is going to be an event-driven debug menu. Now, that's not really a big deal. What that is adding some additional emits inline. Does it add extra noise? I believe so. Maybe something that I can start doing is in the enemy pool, instead of saying remove enemy, I can start listening to the signal. So it all kind of follows just this single path, and in the future, the signal will just continue listening to this. Same with adding. So if we go into the enemy spawn, let me go ahead and save this. As we go in the enemy spawn, there's also another emit, enemies loaded in the spawner. That is here only for the spawner. That is here only for the debug. When an enemy is spawned, I say enemy spawned. Why don't I just call this and pass the enemy? And there's a real reason in my mind why I'm not doing that is because I don't really want to pass the enemy around all the time. What I would rather do is, instead of passing this reference around, is provide event information. So, what sort of information can I provide? And I want it to be structured in a way that can be used for debug. And if I want to, I could actually start providing an output of all those emits. Now, I'm kind of getting down a path of like, this is really cool stuff because I think it's really cool stuff. And I think that everything that I've been playing with and everything that I've been seeing and doing as part of this debug overlay has felt like a new way to be able to actually get a bit more emotionally invested in the data and not just the presentation. Making sure that if my enemy pool does not clear, if I end a game prematurely, that it's not going to cause issues down the line, which we saw it did. Being able to understand those things before it actually goes out and being able to have a way to actually debug things post build. So next, I'm going to continue building on this. I'm going to get some more tabs up. I'm going to figure out exactly what I would like the enemy tab to look like, the tower tab, get all of that stuff together. Anyways, I think this is pretty cool. Again, a new way to actually take a look at the game and get more information. So I ask you, if you have added a debug overlay, please let me know. Let me know any tips that you would recommend. Let me know how you would solve this issue. Let me know how you have solved this issue. And as always, I hope that you were able to get something out of this and be just as excited as I am. This is freaking cool. So there we are. So I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining with me.